Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Senator Blackburn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and congratulations to each of you on your nominations. And it's so wonderful to hear your introductions of your families. And I'm so pleased, Mr. Kimber, that you now have a congressional edict to be good to your mama. I think that is just awesome. We mamas like things like that. We're also informed by looking at your records and reading your writings. And Judge Kasubhai, I want to come to you because as I looked at some of your readings and writings, your decisions, you seem to have an affinity for Marxism. And in a 1994 essay, you criticize the concept of private property, and I'm going to quote you here. You argued that, and I quote, property incites rebellion, end quote. And this is one of the many positive statements that you have made about Marxist approaches and Marxist policies, Marxism, and you know, President Reagan, as I was reading some of your things that leaned toward Marxism, I thought of President Reagan's comments when he said that the March of Freedom and Democracy would leave Marxism on the ash heap of history, and that's exactly where it belongs, because Marxist regimes, as of 2023, have been responsible for the deaths of over 100 million people. So it disturbs me when I see this leaning to Marxism in your writings. So a yes or no question. Are you a Marxist?
No, Senator.
Okay. Will you right now disavow the tenets of Marxism that you have praised in some of your writings?
Senator, I have not praised Marxist ideas, and I would disavow any other system than that which is than that would be supported by our U.S. Constitution and our laws.
I appreciate your comment, but sir, in your writings, you have given the opposite opinion. But you've also made a number of concerning statements regarding sexuality and the disempowerment of women. Specifically, you've aligned yourself philosophically with a professor who has espoused the disturbing views that all heterosexual relationships are per se infused with violence and that all sexual acts should be viewed as rape. Not only is this view wrong and offensive, but also, and perhaps more importantly, it undercuts the important work that is being done across this country to empower survivors of sexual assault. When you say that all sexual acts are rape, you delegitimize and silence women who actually are victims of sexual assault. So how can women possibly trust that they will be treated fairly in your courtroom given your disturbing views on this subject?
Senator, that law review article to which you're referring, I believe was published, I wrote in 1995. I did not align myself with those ideas. The law review article summarizes several different
We're familiar with the article. Do you regret citing these very concerning statements?
Senator, the description or summary of these different theories is not a subscription to or an attestation of the validity.
Do you denounce the view that all women are per se disempowered by our system?
I do not ascribe to those theories that I was summarizing in that article. And I would also turn to my years of serving on the bench and treating all people fairly.
Let me move on. I've got 30 seconds. I also was troubled by your involvement as the prosecutor in the Gonzalez case. Mr. Gonzalez was arrested for allegedly raping a 12-year-old little girl. The FBI eventually reviewed the media seized from his home and identified horrific images of child sexual abuse. The sentencing memo that you prepared Oh, this is for Mr. Smith. Your sentencing memo, you outlined Mr. Gonzalez's heinous crimes. The images that were found on his phone were created in his home, in his own bedroom, with girls as young as 10 years old, and they found out he had parties. He would offer them illicit substances. He would then abuse them, and he did this multiple times over a 15-year period of time. It started in 1997, and still with all of that information, you went far below the guidelines. And in fact, for this repeat child abuser, you recommended a sentence of just over 10 years. And he had done this to kids for 15 years. So why did you do that?
Thank you for the question, Senator. I do recall the case of Mr. Gonzalez. That was a case that I believe I was assigned when I had just started in the office. I recognized immediately the seriousness of those offenses, and I believe I had Mr. Gonzalez prosecuted within a month or so of my having been assigned the case. When I make sentencing recommendations in court, especially as a new prosecutor in the General Crimes Unit in the Southern District of New York, I make those sentencing recommendations.
Okay. Well, the court rejected your recommendation. They went above you to 15 years and then gave him an additional 10 years of probation. This is something that is terribly concerning to me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'm going to let Mr. Smith finish his answer to your inquiry.
Thank you, Chair Durbin. I just wanted to mention, particularly in the General Crimes Unit in the Southern District of New York, the sentencing recommendations that we make are in close consultation with our supervisors, considering all of the 3553A factors. And so when I appear in that forum, I'm representing the office. And I do that as a prosecutor in all of my cases. I am not speaking on behalf of my own personal views. I try to set those things aside, and I try to represent the office. If I were fortunate to be confirmed, I would do the same as a judge. I would set any personal views aside, and I would endeavor to apply the law faithfully and to find the facts fairly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.